So, Roger, let's see if I can give you the... Right, the floor is yours, Roger.
Right, good morning, everyone. I hope you're all keeping safe and well at this difficult time. I don't know about you guys, but we're having poor mobile phone reception around here. So I think with everyone self-isolating and working from home, the networks are really struggling. But hoping that this Zoom thing will work for the next hour or so. So yeah, basically, I'm here to take any of your questions, give you a bit of advice. What I thought I would start with, though, was just give a quick summary of announcements that our Chancellor Rishi made on Friday evening. Some of them will obviously apply to some and not others, I'm afraid. But if we start with some of the welcome measures, which I think will apply for most of you, is that we're basically deferring VAT and tax payments. So the VAT, for example, you won't have to pay for effectively another 3 months. It's not been cancelled, mind you, it's just effectively deferring the payment date. So, but I still think that's very welcome because it will enable businesses to keep some cash in their bank for 3 months while they sort themselves out. And the other thing is, for those who do their self-assessment tax returns, whether it's sole trade and profits have been taxed or whether it's dividends from companies, your July payment on account has been postponed to January. So effectively what we're doing is we're kicking the can down the road a bit. So, but it should ease the cash flow for you guys in the meantime. So, which is good. Then enables you to, or gives you that time to be able to go and talk to your banks and other lenders if you then need to have some additional bank funding, you know, just to see you through the traumatic time as well. What the government have announced is that they've called it the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. So basically, what this is doing is they're saying to the banks, please lend to small businesses, and what we will do as the government is that we will guarantee those loans to you. So if for whatever reason Joe Bloggs Limited or whoever goes bust, the government will step in and guarantee that you banks won't lose out. And I think the guarantee, as far as I understand, is about 80% of the loan. It will also be interest-free as well. Initially said it was going to be for 6 months. Now they've said it's for 12 months. But I will say it's still a loan, folks. So speaking to bank managers and things like that in the last few days, they will be still looking to see whether it's a business case and whether they're still going to lend. And as one bank manager said to me, it's as if the virus doesn't exist. We will look at the business case and make our judgment on that basis. So if they definitely see a business that's ailing and not likely to recover, I doubt, to be honest with you, whether you're going to get that lending. But you know, things are changing on a daily basis, so we just have to keep our ears to ground and keep up with it all. The other major announcements, as you and the phone line's been hot this morning, is regarding the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme. And basically what this is saying is that in the event of a cessation of trade, the government will pop in and effectively pay 80% of those wages, up to a maximum of £2,500 per month per employee. And they've said that will be for 3 months, but could be extended for 6 months. So basically, if you cannot trade for whatever reason, the government, as I say, will be stepping in to help pay for the wages. And this is going to be operated through the payroll scheme. Now, we don't know the detail. They've not announced the detail of this. So we have got some concerns over it, because how do you prove A, you've ceased to trade, B, how many people you've laid off? It's obviously not going to apply to every single employee you've got. What happens if you lay them off part-time? There are all these unknown questions at the moment. And from what I gather from my institute and association, is that the revenue have been working on the detail all over the weekend, and we are expecting further details to be announced this week. So I wish I could get a lot of answers on that subject with the loan, but it will certainly benefit a lot of people, and certainly those in the hospitality trade, things like that. It's obvious that, you know, their businesses have ceased to trade, but you know, firms like an accountants were still operating and might have to lay someone off, but how do I prove whether that person is just been laid off because I fancy it, or whether there's a legitimate reason? As I say, we just need that finer detail. So those are sort of the government announcements at the moment. I have to say there's a lot lacking at the moment for, I would just say, the small business person, entrepreneur. You know, you're all directors of your own companies, etc. Are you going to be getting money from this job retention scheme? My gut feeling is probably no, but as I say, we don't know. And there's so many other things, you know, statutory sick pay. We haven't been paying ourselves much because we've all been taking the money out by dividends rather than pay. So I expect that there's a lot of lobbying going on at the moment, obviously with the Treasury and the Chancellor. So I do expect to be more details announced later on, but it's quite, I try and understand how this is all going to work. And what the initial thoughts are, well, this isn't going to happen overnight. These initiatives are also going to be coming in next month. So what can you do now? This is the crucial bit. So one or two things that you can do, as well as obviously taking into consideration the tax deferral facilities in place, is that the revenue have got a business support line. So, for example, if you've got wages, you know, the PAYE and NI to pay out on the 19th of April, well, we could be calling the revenue to ask them if we can do a payment plan for that. For example, I think under this scenario, it's going to be very unlikely that they will refuse such requests. Normally, they like to see accounts, things like that, to see what cash you've got in the bank and all your other assets, etc., etc. I suspect they're going to be a bit more flexible, and they're just going to be inundated. So, but what I would say is, let's pick up this phone sooner rather than later, because I suspect on the 19th of April, for example, everyone's going to be on the phone. And it's really then obviously trying to keep hold of your cash and managing it very, very wisely. So some of our clients are asking the landlords for rent holidays for 2 months. The landlords don't have to give those rent holidays. But obviously you put a case to them by saying, well, if you don't give me a rent holiday, I might not be here in 2 or 3 months. What are you going to do about it? And there are 1 or 2 landlords around here who've said yes. I know 1 or 2 have said no. But yeah, it's certainly worth that question. And basically, it's also then talking to your suppliers. If you have suppliers, and you know, what I would say is talk to them, talk about what new payment terms that you can have, you know, rather than paying, say, for example, within their sort of 7-day or 30-day period, ask them whether you can stretch it to 60 days. My own experience is if you do nothing and don't talk to them, they're going to start playing hardball and say no. But if you engage with them at the outset and just be open and honest with them, I think you will find many suppliers will be obliging. Yes, they've got their own issues, they've got to pay their bills, but it's all about trying to keep business flowing and having business at the end of this dreadful episode. So yeah, it's all about planning. Plan your cash flow. We do have there's software out there, applications like Fluidly, etc., that can bolt onto people's software packages like Xero, that we're encouraging people to use. Here at Essendon, we've negotiated a discount on those products for people to be able to bolt onto their Xero, QuickBooks, etc. And I'd almost be looking at your cash flow on a daily basis, and keep your ear to the ground, keep looking at the revenue website, keep looking at your accountant's blogs, social media postings, things like that. Certainly here at Essendon, we're putting out blogs probably twice a week and doing social media postings every single day, probably 2 or 3 times a day, just to keep you up to date with what's going on out there in the business world. So that's basically where we are at the moment. Has anyone got any, start firing off some questions and we'll open up a bit of discussion?
Well, I'll start with one, Roger. So is there anything that people should be doing with current customers or suppliers or things like that? Should they be thinking about putting payment plans in place or chasing invoices earlier, anything like that?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm fortunate most of my clients pay pretty promptly, but like all businesses, I have got a handful who tend to like to use us as a bit of a bank. And what I will say is that we're obviously having discussions with those clients to say, okay, you can't afford my bill for £1,000. How about let's pay that over 6 months? Or we agree that we're not going to, we'll extend the credit for another 3 months. So certainly, yes, I think you should be every business should be talking to their clients. And likewise with your suppliers. I think, we're being amenable to our clients. I think most people out there are conscious that they want to protect their business and their business relationships. And certainly, I think having those conversations rather than just ignoring it and not paying the bills is the way to go, definitely.
Okay. The other thing I've seen a few small businesses do is offering deferred payments to clients, which I personally think is a little bit dangerous in the current climate. What are your thoughts?
Well, it is dangerous. I'd rather get a payment plan in place rather than deferring it. What always worries me in the circumstances like this, there are always people out there who would abuse the sort of goodwill sometimes. I would admit I've got one client who I probably know that's probably got near enough £1 million in the bank, yet he's asking for a payment plan. It's not entering into the spirit of it, and it's a bit like, isn't it, people panic buying with the toilet rolls and things like that. I think if we all play our part and be reasonable in it, and accept that, okay, we might not be able to pay the bill on day one, but if we pay say 10% of it over 10 months perhaps, it will help. But doing nothing, I think, is the wrong way about it in these circumstances, because it will damage your reputation. And I think it's key that we're all open-minded, we're all clubbing together and helping each other. And as I say, don't go and buy 12 little rolls, buy 2 at a time, and let there be enough for everyone.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll open it to the floor then. So if you've got any questions, if you found that raise hand button, which is a digital raise hand, then do that, or put a comment in the chat group. All the menu options are down at the bottom of the screen. If you scroll your mouse down, you should see chat and participants, which will allow you to raise your hands. So does anybody have any questions for Roger? Can't see any raised hands. Oh yes, Mark. Hold on, Mark, I'll just unmute you. Mark.
Hi, Roger.
Hiya.
Yeah, I think you covered it there, but it was just a sense check, really. There is a lot of talk about freelancers and self-employed, that sort of thing. And this is potentially a daft question, but when I hear that terminology, I'm always thinking in terms of somebody who's registered as a sole trader. Am I still, as a director of a business, regarded as self-employed in that sense, or are they purely only talking about sole trader?
No, you're not self-employed, unfortunately. Right. When you're a director, you effectively you've set up this legal entity, which is your limited company, and you become an employee of it.
Yeah.
The issue we've got with all this job retention scheme, etc., is it going to cover, for example, directors?
That was it, and you said it's and that's not clear at the minute, is it, as to what they're going to do about
absolutely not, and
dividend payments and things, and like a minimum salary.
Yeah, you've all been taking minimum salary and things like that, and taking that by dividends, because that's the best way to do it from a tax point of view. We've also got the issue is, and I think there are going to be lots of arguments going forward, that directors receive pay for being a director's duties. Not necessarily for getting paid for actually carrying out the work within the business. So are we going to have arguments down the road where the revenue might say, okay, you received £8,628 this year, but that was paying you for your director's duties, not necessarily for carrying out work within the business. Right. You also haven't ceased to trade as such. You've still kept the company going. Okay, you might not be doing much at the moment because you can't, but you are still a director of a company that's still active and out there, even just doing the minimum amount of work. So you can't have laid yourself off. And it's talking about this word furlough, whatever they talk about. When I look at it, and it's still not totally clear, I have to admit, it's talking about laying off people. So when you're a sort of sole director of your own limited company, you can't very well lay yourself off. Yeah. So there's definitely a problem at the moment with all of these things. It's all very geared towards employees who do got their 9-to-5 day job. Yeah. But there's very, very little, as I can see it at the moment, for entrepreneurs like yourself who have set up your own company and work for yourself.
Yeah.
Even
we just have to see what happens, aren't we?
Yeah. Even the sort of sick pay announcements where they're basically saying the self-employed can get sick pay effectively through the universal credit and things like that. Well, you're not self-employed.
No. So, I wasn't sure about that, I must admit. I would definitely agree with you about the communication side, because I've got a client who's gone very quiet on me. They only owe me a small amount of money, but my view with them is I'm going to give them a ring because they've been very unresponsive on email and thing. My view with that is that if I sense that they're struggling and they talk to me about it and they want to arrange a plan or do something, then fine. But if I sense that they are playing silly buggers with me, that's a different story. And I think that's the danger, is if people just keep quiet and try and hide, then that's when everyone's going to start suspecting, viewing them differently, aren't they? So you've got to keep that communication open, both for your suppliers and your clients, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we've all got to be doing business in 3 months' time, and we might be more choosy who we do business with.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, thank you for that, Roger. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Well,
Okay, we've got some other questions. Curtie, I'm going to unmute you when I can find your name. Hold on. Okay, Curtie, the floor is yours. Did you want to ask Roger your question?
Hi, Roger. It was just quite a generic question, really, because of the lack of support offered to the self-employed. Do you have any tips around managing cash flow in the next few months for us, basically?
Right. Well, what I would say is that, apart from doing the things that we've already talked about in terms of, please sit down and plan it and talk to your suppliers and customers. I mean, there's very little that I see out there that the chancellors are able to do for us, apart from, as I say, deferring the tax bills, but providing this what I call the guarantee loan facility. Because if we're not going to charge interest on it, and you've still got a business that has got potential at the end of it, I think that the banks will be under a lot of pressure to lend. So, it'd be great if we could all go and get a 12-month loan for, say, £10,000, whatever, to see you over this 3-month period. Because some people will be in business, and I say the landlord won't give them a rent-free period, etc. But you still want to continue those premises after all this is done. You need to be able to get that cash in to be able to pay the rent. So I can certainly see that there's going to be a lot of, I can see the banks willing to lend for that reason. If you go along to them and say, well, I've got rent to pay, etc., and I've got these commitments, I'm going to go under otherwise. I think their arms twisted and they're going to have to lend.
Okay.
I'd also look at non-essential spending. I'm sure we've all subscribed to things over the years that are stuck on credit cards and what have you. Some of which are probably not using it. So you've got to take a look at some of those things and think, are they still going to be essential to your business survival going forward, or is it something that I can cut out for now? So you just got to review your expenditure and your suppliers, really.
Which is very difficult sometimes. I mean, I know some of our viewers here, Paul, have got sort of time for you franchisees who basically organise cleaners to go into people's properties.
Yeah.
People are cutting back on having a house cleaned and things like that in these difficult times. And this is
Right.
having a huge knock-on effect with those businesses. So it's affecting everyone, this virus. It's just not any particular sector or anything.
Mm.
It's hitting everyone from, you know, the humble window cleaner to someone who's, you know, running some great big corporation. It's yeah.
I've got another question from Ian Frost. He's not mic'd up, so it's just over the chat. Being registered as both contractor and subcontractor under CIS regs, does this fall within employee/employer status within PAYE?
Well, my answer to that would be that's a contractor and a subcontractor like to be self-employed. So we're not going to be have that employer-employee relationship, because many people who effectively are subcontractors at the moment have always gone down that route because they don't want to be an employee on someone's books. So I have a feeling here that that one's going to be outside the scheme, but you never know. When the revenues details come out, it could well be there, but I suspect the answer to that is no, unfortunately.
Okay. Anybody else with any questions? Either wave at the camera or type in the chat or raise your hand digitally. Ian says thank you, by the way, Roger. Okay, I can't see any hands. Apologies if I've missed them. So is there anything else from you finally, Roger?
I think at this point in time, it's communication's key. We've highlighted the fact that, you know, please keep talking to your customers and suppliers. I think you'll find that the business community is all coming together. You know, for example, this morning we got a lovely gesture from Franklin Solicitors, who basically said that they will give free advice to any of our clients who find that they might be in a dispute or anything like that with, say, a landlord, etc., because they can't pay the rent. Basically, what they're doing is they're doing free Zoom meetings and things like that to clients to see how they can help and resolve matters before it gets into bad situations. So that's just an example of the business community coming together and having these sort of great webinars that you're organising, Paul, as well. I think if we all sit together and keep talking and communicating, and I think that's the key thing in this whole scenario.
Okay, right, I'm going to share a lady called Wendy Tate that some of you will know, sort of shared some useful links that I'm just putting in the chat for you guys now that might be useful for you to check out, which covers a number of different things, some of which Roger's touched on today. So if you want a copy of this video or you want any further information, then you can always email me. What we're doing is we're doing a series of these seminars, webinars, whatever. We're doing 3 a day, which might seem a little bit excessive, but I think there's quite a lot to cover across the different sectors, that it's important to get the information out as fast as possible so businesses are informed and can make the right choice. So later today, 3 o'clock, we've got Jessica Shales that's going to be looking at how you can maximise your marketing activity during these times. And then at 7 p.m. this evening, Judith Hanson is going to join us and look at the impact, I guess, on your mental health while stuff is going on like this. So looking at your stress and anxiety. And Pam's on the line, if we can just unmute her. She's doing a session, I think, tomorrow. Pam, do you want to let people know what you're going to be covering tomorrow?
Well, I haven't gone through all my chat with Christina yet, but yeah, it's basically looking at, I think actually Roger did touch on this a little bit at the very end of what he's saying, that about sort of still blogging and, you know, keeping your social media alive whilst you're during this time. And I'm just going to sort of talk about how to sort of look at adapting that, because obviously the messages that we put out prior to this are not relevant really anymore, and it's not what you know what you need to be putting out there. So I'm just going to be there to kind of like chat about that and be kind of open to questions. But people, you know, if people have got ideas of what they want to do with their social media, you know, let's have a sort of a bit of a brainstorm and see if you're going in the right direction. I have actually also written a blog this morning for Paul, but I've just sent over to the guys to read it first. And it's also about how to kind of adapt your sort of blog writing and getting your content on your website at this time as well, and the importance of that. So just kind of like situations that people are being thrown into that you're not comfortable with. It's kind of like, I want to kind of open that all up, you know. I hate being on video, but I'm here, and, you know, it's kind of like changing how, you know, how we look at things now and how to sort of market yourself in this current weird situation.
Okay, and what time's that tomorrow, Pam?
11.
Okay, thank you. Mark's just popped up with another question. I'll just unmute Mark again. Okay, Mark.
Yeah, it was just, I think you covered it, keeping an eye on things because things are changing. But what's your, I appreciate this is just an opinion at this stage, but how quickly do you think the landscape is going to be changing with the HMRC and what they're doing? It sounds to me like things might be changing almost daily. Is that likely that we need to keep an eye on things on a daily basis because there could be new announcements?
Oh, I think so. I think there'll be. I think Rishi's going to be up and speaking at least once a week. I suspect there'll be daily announcements. I suspect just because we've got to get all the wiring sort of, you know, tied in, etc. We're not going to be able to get any of this money flowing really onto April time, and particularly with the job retention scheme, you know, payroll dates or paying your PAYE national insurance is on the 19th of the month. You know, we're not going to get anything flowing onto then, I don't think.
No.
So it's, yeah, hang in there, folks. I think in the meantime.
I guess that's all we can do.